Welcome to another episode of our Founders Podcast. I'm your host, Ash, and this is a show where I interview proven founders and industry experts who share their stories, strategies, and insights to help you build, launch, and grow your business. In this episode, I talk to Simon, the founder of Popcorn CRM. Simon's journey began as a marketing consultant for small businesses owners in the Midlands. He spent his days helping them bridge the gap between marketing sales and but one thing was crystal clear. Existing softwares were a clunky, budget breaking mess. Back in 2013, the idea struck him, why not create a super simple visual CRM system that small businesses can actually use and love? That's where Popcorn CRM come to life. Fast forward to today, and Popcorn CRM is already in its third version, all geared up to become the top CRM for small businesses in the UK. The secret sauce, Simon's mantra of keeping things simple, focusing on value, and delivering world class customer service to get you going in no time. So I hope you enjoy this show. Simon, welcome to the show.
Oh, welcome. Thank you. I quite like that intro. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Do you have a
I could be
favorite?
so eloquent.
Sorry?
I wish I could be so eloquent.
Thank you. Do you have a favorite quote, something that inspires or motivates you that you would like to share with our audience?
I suppose from an inspirational point of view, I'm not brilliant with quotes, but the one I always quote back to people is from Nike, and it's just do it. If you
Mhm.
want to do something, if you want to achieve something, if you just do it, you means you started. It doesn't matter if it's perfect, if it's not, you're on the journey. And as long as you keep doing it, you'll get to the end. So it's a very simple one.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, I couldn't agree more on this one because a lot of founders I interview, and most of them who have not started, they always think about, oh, what if I make a mistake? What if the product is not good? And they just don't start. And you need to start at some point, isn't it?
I
Great.
remember my first job, the marketing director I was talking to, I remember being that eager, fresh-faced person coming in there, and I was desperate to do stuff to prove myself in the company. And he turned around, and I was asking to get involved in all these projects, and he just turned around to me and went, "Simon, 90% of marketing is delivery. The strategies, all those other things, just 10%. You've got to nail the 90% first because that's what it all counts on. Otherwise, there's no point doing anything else." And it's
Yeah,
always stuck with me.
perfect. Perfect. There you go. We got two quotes.
That was an unplanned one.
So tell us about Popcorn Serum then. What does the product do? Who is it for? And what's the main problem you're helping to solve?
Okay, so what is it? You've described it very lovely at the moment, so thank you. But what we're a CRM that's designed specifically for small businesses. And when I say that, we've cut out kind of all the bells and whistles that small businesses don't actually use and get in the way of them using it. And then what we've done is we've put the essential marketing tools in there so that they can kind of manage, nurture, convert their prospects faster. But what it actually means in real terms is that every small business that works with us always knows where every single one of their prospects are, why they're there, and what they need to be speaking to them about. So it gives them that sort of intelligence, that insight really quickly and really simply.
Mm-hmm.
So who uses us? It's the best way to describe it is the way a small business work. Well, the way businesses work. They'll all when we all start off. We've all done this. We go out there and we go, right then, I'm going to do this, and we bootstrap it, and we go, right, I'm going to use a spreadsheet to do this. And we've got a spreadsheet here. Then I need to do some email marketing, so I'll go and use an email marketing platform there. And then there's this, and there's another spreadsheet here. And then we get an employee or start working with that. You make a copy of that spreadsheet. Soon we realize data is all over the place. It's a complete and utter mess. And because of that, we're missing sales and we're losing opportunities. What then happens to a typical small business is they realize how much money they're losing, which is about $7,000 a month in lost sales and missed opportunities. So it's big figures, especially for a small business. They have this panic reaction. They go, "I've got to do this properly." And they'll go over and they'll jump over to something like HubSpot and like Salesforce, which are brilliant bits of kit. And we were talking just before we came on air about this, but they're brilliant, but they aren't designed for small businesses. They're designed for corporates. They've got all the reporting in there and the functionality that will give everything you need. But with that comes a lot of time, comes complexity, and in time comes a lot of cost. So
Mhm.
one of my favorite stats is from salesforce.com from a couple of years ago. They said that 72% of small businesses give up using CRM because it's too complicated or clunky. So they then give up, go back to the spreadsheets, and we're into this cycle of failure. So
Mhm.
we've kind of taken that very, very thin middle slice where people kind of go, I know I need to start doing something better than this, but I'm not ready for all this functionality yet. I just want to be able to focus on doing what I do brilliant, get the team using it, and let it do what it does. And that's where we are with it all.
Yeah, yeah. Got it. It's like using Microsoft BI for a very small business who can actually generate the charts literally on a spreadsheet or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Going back to my original quote of just do it. You want to find the quickest, simplest way to do something because the more layers, the more stuff you put in, the more chances
Mm.
that you're not going to do it. And
Yeah,
then you get caught up in, you let your customers down, you miss sales, your turnover drops.
indeed, indeed. Great. So let's talk about where the story began. When and where did you had this popcorn serum idea, and where did it came from?
Okay, so my journey got me to the place. So I've used the phrase journey. Sorry, don't I sound like someone of X Factor? Or so yeah. So I went through university, realised it wasn't for me. I was a designer there,
Mm.
but I knew I loved marketing. So I went and worked my first job as a marketing, which I mentioned earlier. I worked my way up to the dizzy heights of a division of BMW Group. And in there, that division did CRM integrations. So I saw the absolute power that a CRM can bring to a business.
Mm.
And I was doing marketing in there, but we were doing it out to like some of the really big corporates, really big systems. But I
Mm.
really loved working with small businesses. The type of business I got involved with at the start. So I went and set out on my own. And I was working as a marketing consultant for these sort of small businesses. And the best way to describe me once I sort of found my feet doing that would be I was kind of I mothered businesses is the best way of saying it. So I'd go out there and I'd kind of go, right, what do you need to do? And then I'd handhold them and get them into the actual behaviours so they were delivering. But what I rapidly realised when I was working with these small businesses, they're doing all this good marketing behaviour, but they
Mm.
don't join up marketing and they don't join up sales. And then they've got the spreadsheets all over the place and the mess everywhere. So whenever any small business does any marketing, what do they want from it? They want sales. But because they're not joining up, they're missing it. So I spent half my time doing spreadsheets of people, joining it all up and going, there's the 10 people you need to phone because that's what marketing should be doing. It should be delivering results for people. But I got back to where I was at the very start with the university of going, I'm not actually a spreadsheet person. So, but I see the benefit of it. I know the customers love it. So I need to build a piece of software. Now, as I mentioned, I was kind of started off as a designer. I became a marketeer. I learned how to build websites. I've done some basic HTML coding and stuff, but I certainly knew I couldn't build a platform that I needed. So, and I was very, very, with hindsight, I look back and I was far too green to do it. But I started working with an agency, got them to build the initial concept, which was around what we were looking for. And
Mhm.
that was to have a piece of software that joined up the marketing. They had email marketing in there, he had a CRM and some lead generation tools, and was to join all of that up in one place so people could see. And it worked really nicely. We got some decent sized customers working with us, and we got some really good feedback, which took us then to version one. Fast forward a few years, fast forward to the pandemic, and I'm still working on version one. And if I'm being honest, it's getting a bit creaky at this point. But we're getting the results from it. People are really enjoying it. And when the pandemic hit, I, like many businesses, kind of stopped selling. I thought there's no point driving something. I'm going to go and educate. And it
Mhm.
made me rethink about what we did as a business. So I kind of went to my customers and went, tell me what you love about us. Tell me what you hate
Mhm.
about us. Generally had those sort of conversations. And it was really interesting because what I thought people were using us for wasn't actually what we were um, doing. So
Mm,
I kind of then stepped back completely and utterly and decided to spend a whole bunch of time looking at the CRM market and understanding my customers a lot more. And I probably spent a good several months doing this. And the outcome of what I came to made me readdress what our whole platform, our whole offering was. So we just refined it. We readjusted our messaging. Refined our customer audience. So we only wanted to work with these small businesses, which is what I love.
mm.
And then we started rebuilding this version 2 of the platform, and that went live 5 months ago. So it's taken off nicely. We've had some brilliant feedback from it, and I suppose the big win we've had on it is, and we're just at the final stages now, is we're going to be made official CRM partner for Free Agent, which is the UK's leading accountancy software. I forgot what it was for a second. Accountancy software for small business.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a massive, amazing step for us. But it's all testament of the journey we've been on and how we actually understand their customers, and that's why Free Agent want to work with us.
Oh, perfect. Congratulations on them. I mean, landing free agent as a partner is a big deal in B2B business. I cannot even tell you how big it is. I think your next stop would be, I don't know, QuickBooks or Xero or someone more bigger and giant, you know. That would
Watch this space.
yeah, yeah. Great stuff. Great stuff. So when you had this epiphany, did you? I'm sure you looked into the market, you looked into the other alternative products, and what was going on at that time, and what did you see from your research? I mean, I know you said that there's a vertical slice or a gap there, but what exactly was that gap which encouraged you to move forward with this?
Okay, so it was one of the things I did was obviously I researched my competitors and I understood what they all did. And we CRM itself is a very big umbrella term. It covers
Mm,
a whole, depending on who you speak. If you speak to a corporate, CRM means one thing. If you speak to a one-man band, it means a completely different thing. But it's got this capsule over it. So what I kind of did was I just started looking at my audience and going, what is it what do they love, what do they hate? So I did what was quite a scary exercise really, but I spent weeks, days just going around all the forums, reading what people loved, what they hated about
mm,
CRMs, where it was failing for them, where they were winning from it. And that was the key thing that kind of helped to identify these drivers, as well as my own customer research. It just really enforced what a small business needs and what
mm.
it doesn't need. So that's what drove me kind of looking, well, we're going to put a promise in to say we're not going to have contracts, we're not going to have setup fees, there's no hidden fees in there. It really needs back to my core value of simplicity, all those things. And just as soon as I understood that, that was the driver for it. And it really still is. And whenever I speak to a small business, that's what they want.
Amazing. And it gives me so many goosebumps that these big giants who have billions of dollars, they don't understand it, right? This is the girth, this is the sentiments of small business which they should learn, but they don't really care about it.
I, I don't, I suppose I would disagree. I think they do care, but when small business isn't their target audience,
Ah.
because as I sort of mentioned, they're designed for corporates. So as soon
Mm,
as you get out of those sort of freemium or those basic models, they've
mm,
got they rapidly ramp up. And
mm.
if it's right for you as a business, it's brilliant. It'll do everything you need it to. But for an average small business, once you go up to thousands of pounds a month, well, you it stops becoming a benefit and becomes a drain on the business, and
Mm.
then you end up having to spend more time running it than you're actually spending doing your own business. So I
Yeah.
don't think it's that they don't understand us. I think it's that they want to capture us ready for when we're ready to afford to use them. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It makes sense. And how long it took you guys to get your first version?
First version. So I remember I know the exact moment where I came up with the idea.
Mm,
So sitting in the kitchen with my wife, as I'm sure many of us have done, and just chatting away, complaining about this isn't what I want to be doing. And then I remember sketching it all out on a pad. And I probably spent a good couple of months at that concept stage, just getting my ideas really refined. I did some basic sketches and all that sort of stuff for it all, how I felt it should work, and set the rules in place for the system. And I think that was one of the key things, understanding what those rules are. So wherever we were in the platform, certain things must always happen and we cannot break them. And they still stand actually to this day.
Mm.
So we then spent quite a bit of time probably spent another few months trying to find the right developer for us. And once we started with them, they were a great developer. They were absolutely brilliant. The heart was completely in it. I think they took on more than they could chew at first. So that, from my point of view, was one of my first real learnings about the platform. So it took a lot longer. I think it took about a year and a half for them to actually build it. So that affected things in quite substantially for us. But from my point of view, it was really nice because it gave me the time to grow and nurture the platform, that sort of concept, as I was working with them, to get to be exactly where I wanted it to be. So yeah,
So
just over a year, to a long answer to a short question.
sure, and I love this answer because it gives me all the information which a founder needs to know when they are thinking about starting something new up. So do you consider yourself fairly technical, or maybe I rephrase this question: how much involved you were in your first version? Do you understand the technical stacks your agency or the developers were using? Did you had any say in it, or did they suggested it you and then you just got onboarded with it? How did all this worked out?
So principles and functionality. As I sort of said, I'm a marketeer. I'm a tech. I suppose I'd class myself as an early adopter in those sort of worlds. But when it comes to actually coding and doing what I like to class as the black magic part of it all, didn't have a clue. It was complete foreign language. So one of the big learning curves I went through in that was learning how to talk tech and how to communicate with devs. Because I would kind of go, I want this to happen, and I'd be marketeer fluffy language. And the devs would then go away and produce something which they thought was what it was, and it was nothing like it. So I very rapidly learned about wireframing. So whenever I produced something, I'd wireframe it and I'd put a very clear written description of what happens with every single click. And that was a rapid learning curve for me. But once I'd got that, it helped me to the point where we could have a sensible conversation between us and we could get to the point of where we needed to very quickly. But I still stand we're 10 years on now from that point. At the time, and it's what I always said when I was in marketing, I don't want to know tech, because if the moment I get caught up in tech stuff is the moment I stop being solution led. So when I'm working with a team at the moment, I'll go right then, and I understand the principles of stuff now, but I'm as far as I want to go with it, and I've got some great devs who understand me really well. But I will kind of come up with a concept for the way I want something to work. They know the rules, they understand all the functionality behind it all. But more importantly, I will then give them an exact mock-up of how I want this thing to look.
Things to
And I'll
be,
give them a description in it. And because of that, they can go and produce. They come out exactly what I want pretty much every single time. And occasionally, really nice little bonuses come out of it.
Yeah, and I this is a very good example of a founder's life, that when you're dealing with devs or technical people, you need to give them clear vision or visibility, or this, even it's doodling on paper, it helps a lot for devs and technical people. Great, great.
Even if it's just for anyone, if you're anyone's out there thinking of starting, one of the things I started off by doing would just be literally take a screenshot and then draw an arrow. Want this button here to be this or do this, but it just removes a lot of the ambiguity out of it all.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. Great. And I wanna talk more about the business and then how you're doing in terms of number of people in your team. But before that, I'm eager to learn more about the person behind this venture. Can you take us back to your roots, share with our listeners about your upbringing, your childhood, and how did your early experiences shaped your journey to eventually lead you to become an entrepreneur?
You don't get asked that question very often. Okay, yeah. So where do I start on this one? Completely unprepared. Um, yeah, okay. So I'm just gonna. My background is, I suppose, I come from a typical working class family. I was the first person in my family to go to university. Slogged my way through it, funding my way, and just hard work to get through it all. I'm dyslexic, and I think I'm about to be. I was diagnosed with ADHD as well, so had my challenges throughout life with all of that. But I know that I just always, it's felt like I've always been driven. I've always known what I wanted to achieve, and because of that, and whether it's my focus, whatever it is, I've always been determined to get there. So kind of went through university, but to get to, I knew I wanted to get to university because I knew it kind of opened doors. So I
Mm,
found the route that suited me best. And at the time, I kind of often just say, and so I was stalling for a second because I tend not to openly say this bit, but why not? Um, I usually describe myself as a designer. I actually went through uni as a fashion textile designer.
mm,
And end up going on to do a master's. But when I was doing the master's in it, my focus was getting myself a job. It was learning the
mm,
marketing stuff and getting myself there. But what it taught me is it taught me the principles of visual. It taught me how to present and how to have people engage with stuff. So that was
mm.
really fascinating. And I suppose what's happened then. So as I sort of, I've going, but won't go recap much. Yeah, so went through, worked my way up the career ladder to the point where I've set up on my own. Now on that point, we're doing okay. Can always do better, as they say. But
Yeah, yeah.
from that point difference, I'm now married. Been married about 15 years, and I've got 3 kids who are the centre of my universe.
Perfect. Perfect. But and were there any key influences from your family and surroundings that played a significant role in shaping your entrepreneurial spirit?
Yes, I suppose there's two really. The first one was my mum. Um,
Mhm.
she was an absolute figurehead for me. She was brilliant. She had the same outlook as me. She drove. She built her career up from. She didn't go to university, but she built herself up to have a very good position, and was doing well. So she was a person I always turned to for inspiration. And on top of that, once as well, still mother still is inspiration for stuff. But as life moved on, I suppose it's my in-laws are absolutely amazing. My
Mm,
father-in-law had a similar journey to myself. He's worked really hard, and he's been a brilliant sort of person to have involved in my life.
mm. That's really interesting. You're the first person in all three seasons who mentioned that they had someone who had some key influences on their life from their in-laws side. So kudos to that.
Yeah, no, so we get a sticker. Um, no, no, there's always the jokes about the in-laws and everything, but get along with them, absolutely brilliant. And it's you just always got some really lovely insights from them, and just
Yeah.
thought process. And what's helped that is because my wife grew up in that environment.
Mm.
Me taking that similar journey, she's been brilliantly supportive.
Perfect. 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 So let's talk about the business now. So give us a sense of the size of the business and where you are with the number of customer or percentage wise or size of the team, etc.
Okay, so business size wise, um, where do I start? I suppose we're a lot bigger than we are now, pre-COVID. So pre-COVID, obviously, when it hit, we we downscaled the business a bit because we were focusing on the growth side of it, and we just allowed the business to tick over.
Hmm.
And we kept doing that. Really, we weren't too bothered, especially because we knew we had the software coming up. And as being a software company, we all know what software launches are like. So we're smaller than we were. We've got probably about 150 users on the platform now. So it's not massive, but it's a comfortable size in there. Our vision for the business is we're going to become the UK's leading CRM for small business. So we know exactly where we need to be with numbers, all that sort of stuff on it. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, just I was just agreeing with you that this is amazing growth you have achieved. And I was thinking to ask, is it all bootstrap, or did you raise some funding also to create the product?
No, you can count lines there. So no, it's all we've funded it ourselves. We've grown
Yeah.
organically, and it's all been around because we've stuck to those principles of doing what we know, what we love. People have stuck with
Mm.
us, and we've just chipped away slowly and slowly, and we're at that nice tipping point now with the business. We've got the right opportunities. So, but it's. I'm going to go off on one. Sorry. Somebody asked me a couple of months ago, "Do I ever wish I'd taken investment?" And I
Mm.
suppose with the context of what this is, my initial thought was, hell yeah, I wish I had. It would have been so much easier. I could have hired staff quicker. I could have invested in my marketing, got my product bigger, better, faster, all that
Mm.
stuff. And it is a lovely, lovely thought, the idea of a bunch of cash being injected into your business. But I obviously didn't go that route. And when I look back on it, I'm really glad I didn't. And for one
Mm.
simple reason, well, I've had full control of this product. So if we'd taken an investment company on at those early stages, the company probably wouldn't be what it is now, or it may not even be here because of
Mm.
that pressures, or those financial constraints and those external pressures would have had serious ramifications upon what my vision was for this business. So
Mm.
yeah, I'm very glad I haven't gone down that investment route for the moment. It's something we are considering potentially for the future, though.
Yeah, yeah. And I personally have a sort of like a close close sort of sentimental emotion towards the founders who haven't raised anything and built the product by themselves with bootstrapping it, because it's not just about building it, funding it yourself, and then putting it 100% of you, but it is also about loving it, making sure that it is what your customer wants, making sure it is what you want to do in your life and add value to others life. So it's all, it's kind of like a package comes to you, and then you stick to it for a very very long time.
Yeah.
Great.
And
So
on that score as well, many people kind of describe starting a business as being like a roller coaster, and
mm,
software development is exactly the same. You'll have some amazing, amazing highs, but on
mm,
the opposite, you'll have some really stressful times. And if you don't
yeah,
love what you're doing and you haven't got that complete passion to get you through it, you'll
mm,
give up. And so for
yeah,
me, and I think for me, I'm glad I took that harder route, and I've got to a
mm,
place where I'm really, really happy with the product. And luckily, it's all starting to fall together nicely.
perfect, perfect. Great. So Simon, tell us how did you got your first 10 customers? What was, tell us about how did you got your first customer, and then tell us about how did you manage to get your first 10 customer, and what was the journey like, and what did you do?
Okay, so my first customer, do you know what? I used to do, so I started with my marketing hat on. I used to do, and I'm sure many people out there will have done it, and it's a fit for some, it's not fit for all. I did BNI, I used to do BNI. So my first handful of customers came through BNI. Was me standing up
What,
and going, sorry?
what is BNI?
Sorry, BNI, it's a networking group. We
Mhm.
pay membership, and the other members go out and find you referrals. So I started that, and I started talking about this software, and a couple of people in the room bought into
Mm,
the software, and then that was the initial way it started to grow. as I was finding my feet, and because they knew me well, as with any bit of software, you'll have the hiccups at the start. They worked with me to get through that, and as everyone built confidence with it. It then started spread it through the networks, and we started talking to people, and we started getting more and more referrals coming off users from that point. So it was quite an organic growth process. But going back to where you were asking about my skills, my focus at the time was just getting the software working, getting them and focusing on the message. But luckily, and I say luckily because it doesn't happen all the time, we had the referral route coming in through us from users that were loving it.
And you didn't happen to do anything which nowadays the digital founders do, like for example, social media or SEO or content marketing, this kind of stuff?
So we didn't really do any. We did email marketing as part of it. So that's one of the tools that's built into the platform. So that was done organically. Well, we did that as part of the course. SEO, we dabbled, but when you've got so many hats on it, and SEO at 10 years ago was relatively new, it never really got any traction on there. And social media was kind of the same. We had a play with it, but nothing serious. And I had, which is one of the reasons why I suppose I had a slower growth trajectory. One of the challenges we face in our industry, and I'm sure some of your listeners will probably have this as well, is CRM is quite a saturated marketplace. So you've got a lot of the big boys, such as ones we mentioned earlier, HubSpot, Salesforce. They put hundreds of thousands of pounds into their SEO potentially every month. So getting to number one position on those terms is extremely hard. And we've got a couple. We're up there on a couple of things, but even to this day, SEO still isn't a focus of ours because we don't have the resource to go there. So we tend to go down more niche routes, and we find these groups and build. We still take back to the start. We still have a lot of referrals coming through to us.
Right. Is there a place where our listeners can go, and if they have something similar business like yours or similar SaaS product, what will be your suggestion? What kind of groups they have to join, or is there a place where they can find these groups?
From what are you talking about? From the lead generation perspective or the support perspective?
Yeah, lead generation or getting referrals, things like that.
Yeah, so the first thing I would say to anybody in this situation or any business is understand your customer. If you understand your customer, you will know where your customer's hanging out. And so if we were to talk about in terms of CRM, for example, if I was to try and do SEO on the term CRM, I'd be looking to pay 20, 30 pounds. Well, it's not SEO, sorry, pay per click on that. I'd be looking to pay 20, 30 pounds per click, which obviously isn't realistic. But the big boys can afford to do that. But because I now understand my audience, I now know where they hang around and the sort of things they look at that are more niched. So for me, it's not just about going, oh, you're interested in CRM. It's about understanding those small areas that really matter to the business and they spend a lot more time digging into. And when you've got that, you can really target and nurture those areas. So a great example is working with forums. So if you can get on there and become an expert in a forum, all of a sudden you become a trusted character in that place, and people start talking to you, and the referrals naturally start coming through in there, which is a little more labor intensive, but it will grow your reputation really nice, and you get lots of other bigger things falling out of that.
Indeed, and this rule applies to anywhere in any industry, anyways, because you need to become a reputable go-to person in that space in order for people to trust you. I don't know where I have heard this. I think it was in one of the books I've read where it says that you have to have 7 touch points with your customer before they actually make a purchase with you.
Yeah.
So I guess that conveys the message.
Well, to carry on with that, I think it depends on your product. So if someone's going out to buy, I don't know, a computer game, they don't really. They'll go and buy it on. They'll become price point orientated. As long as they trust you, they'll make that purchase. It's a one-click purchase. But if someone's going out to buy a car, or something, an expensive, complex purchase, they'll spend a lot of their time making those decisions. And
Mm,
it's quite interesting around one of my favorite stats quotes is from, there's a book called They Ask You Answer, which if anybody out there wants, I've come prepared. If anybody out there
yeah, so,
wants to understand their customer a bit more, it's a brilliant, brilliant book for that. And in
mm,
there, they talk about the buying process and the decision process for it. And I went to a seminar with the author Marcus Sheridan. When was it? Just last year. And
mm,
he was saying the updated stats from the book is that 80% of a buying decision is made before anybody will reach out to sales. So when you talk about that 6, 7 touches,
mm.
you won't know that nobody will admit to you that they're ready to buy until touch number 7.
Yeah,
And at
yeah,
that point, they're
exactly.
completely armed. They've got all the knowledge they need to know because they'll have been doing all the research. They will have been doing all this stuff so they can come to you and go, am I making the right decision?
Mm.
Not starting from scratch.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah, great point. So let's talk about this dilemma which founders usually found them, and obviously, you being in the industry for a very long time, what was the pricing model you started with when you launched the first version? Where we are right now, and how did you reach to this point?
Okay, so the pricing model is kind of the same throughout the journey. And I say kind of, we have adjusted it towards the end, but it's because it's dictated by the industry. And typically, what we did was say, right then, here's a monthly cost. We'll tie you into a contract, and then we'll have upgrades for A, B, C, D, and E throughout that
Mm,
time, depending on what your needs are. And that's the way the industry predominantly works now. What I realized going back to sort of COVID time, when I did all my research, customers just got completely fed up with it. They never know. They think they know how much they're going to pay here, but they end up paying a lot here, and you get resentment.
mm,
And what buyer's remorse kicks in very, very rapidly in there. So, what our pricing models look like now? We still do. Our pricing starts from £15 a month, for a basic package for someone that's not ready to start yet, or you're ready to fully engage, but it gives them
mm,
a basic functionality. We've then got a package for £49 that includes email marketing, it includes 2 users, and it gives full access to the platform. The only way
mm,
they'll pay more than that is if they want to send thousands and thousands of emails. But what we've done, the big difference is, as I mentioned at the start, we don't tie people into contracts, we don't have hidden fees, and we don't have setup fees. And that is a promise we have right from the start. And it allows us to stick to that industry model which people expect,
mm,
but gives them the comfort blanket that they don't have to stay with us because, well, they're not stuck. They're in control.
mm, mm.
And I think that's probably one of the key things: control. A lot of people feel they've lost control once they're in those original pricing models.
Indeed, indeed, and essentially, if you're saving on an average, as you mentioned, around 7 to 8 thousand pounds by utilizing something which is automating your processes, it's easy decision. £15 or £50 a month, £49 a month. It's not that big deal for a business to invest so that they can automate things.
Yeah, you would think, but still, a lot of businesses do procrastinate on it. It's a bit like change for the accountants out there who they'll completely relate.
Yeah.
Changing your accountant is a complete emotional decision
Mm,
because you've got a lot of stuff going on there, and changing the CRM is very similar to that as well. So people do take the time. We'll get somebody to adopt straight away. We have some people still take 2 years, and that's where it comes down to. And this is where your 7K comes from. It comes
mm,
down to the sort of the pipeline, and not just focusing on the people that are ready to buy now,
mm.
but nurturing them so that when they are ready to buy, when they've gone through and done the 80% of research, that you're there, they remember you, and they're happy to have that conversation with you at that point.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, great. So, would you be able to share a compelling case study that highlights how a company leveraged Popcorn CRM solution to achieve success, and solve their key business challenges?
Okay, so to give an example, we've got a load on our website, which is popcorncrm.co.uk. Check it out. Um, no, but one of the ones that there's two which immediately spring to mind. One
Hmm.
is a digital marketing company that predominantly focuses in on PPC um, and website builds. They they before using us, they fit into that early adopter stage. They've been going a good few years, but they were running on spreadsheets and all that stuff. But they had a couple of telemarketers, they had sales director and various things. Nobody had a clue what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they started using us, and they immediately freed up, I think, 2 hours of their management time every single day because everybody could see what was going on. We joined everything up. And one of my favourite quotes come from this person, and hopefully I don't misquote it, but she said, "We love popcorn because popcorn's our safety net. We know where everybody is, and we don't have to worry about it." And
Mm.
that was one of my favourites from an emotional perspective. But from a statistical point of view, we worked with a big sort of what they called um, kind of finance company, and they do a very specialist area of finance, which the word has gone. It'll come back to me in a second. Um, but they were using us for communicating with all their customers, and then using it to drive into sales lead gen and managing the process. And we increased their sales conversion rate by 200%. And so just by giving them the intelligence, because when you use us, you can see when someone's engaging. We track all that sort of 80% of pre-buying behavior,
Mm.
and we'll even tell you down to what pages they've been looking at on your website. So we give them that intelligence, and I forget the ROI stat. I should have prepared for that, but I think it was something like 400-500 percent
Wow.
ROI on it. So yeah, they absolutely loved us.
Awesome, awesome. And that gives me an idea about like how important it is for a business to automate their, customer relationship management, because ultimately every business needs to make profit, and in order to make profit you need to make sure your customers are happy. So there you go. There's no other option.
Well, I'm going to disagree a bit. So whenever I speak to new people signing up new to the platform or people coming to us, they always talk automation, automation, automation. We've got to do this. I want to automate everything.
Hmm.
And the first thing I'll say is don't do it. Because if you try and automate everything at the start, I'll give you an example. We were talking to one company. I think they're turning over a couple of million. So it wasn't. They weren't a prospect for us, but I was just giving them some advice.
Hmm.
Um, so when I say they weren't a prospect, they had about 60, I think about 50 employees or something. So it wasn't right for us. But so I was giving this advice, and what they said was, we're generating loads of leads, but we're just not converting them. And they were blaming the CRM for it. So we keep losing stuff, we keep doing this. And when I went through and had started having a look at some stuff, I spotted that they were trying to automate the whole process.
Hmm.
And what was happening, they'd made one mistake. And that notification email, which was supposed to go through to the salesperson, wasn't getting through every time. So the
Hmm.
salesperson was missing out on 50% of their inquiries, and therefore those inquiries were getting lost. So the best advice I can genuinely give for a small business, now if you're a big business, you're established and you've got the resource to manage and experience to do it, it's
Hmm.
brilliant. But for a small business, start off small, get your processes sorted and nailed first. So if you understand what you need to be doing at every single stage and you understand it properly, then it'll work. Then put some automation in to manage something through the simple steps. Once
Hmm.
you've got those simple steps in place, you can start elaborating on them and stepping them up. But that way you're in full control and you understand the way the system's working. Because it's very easy for automation to get out of control. Does that make
Hmm.
sense? And
Yeah, no, now I understand it. It is important to understand your company's, yeah, like if a company is a body, then you need to understand the backbone, the veins, and all the things which connects it, and then you figure out which part you want to automate, which part you want to keep human.
And I think exactly what you've just said there. People buy from people. Doesn't
Mm,
matter what industry we're in. Whether go back to my example of a computer game earlier,
mm,
we'll go back to a shop when we're going to physical shops because we like the staff, or we know we've had an experience in there. We like it. And if we automate a process 100%, it stops being human.
mm.
So if you can keep an eye on it and still have that human interaction, even if it's just very simple little steps, it'll differentiate you from your competition.
Definitely, definitely. Great. I mean, Simon, I'm enjoying this conversation so much that it makes me think, because I'm also founder, and when you're a founder and you're talking about how to generate leads, what things could be improved, etc., you always think because you always relate to it, right? So great stuff. So unfortunately, we are heading toward the end of the interview, so I have to, take you to the lightning round where we have six quick questions and you can answer them. But before we go into before we go into that, I would like to ask you one last question, which is like, throughout your journey, like your experience, there must have been valuable lessons learned. If you don't mind sharing, could you reflect on your experience that tell us about a mistake or a setback you encountered along the way? Maybe you don't consider it as a regret, but like a lesson learned. And what advice would you give our listeners based on that experience?
Okay, so the biggest problem I've had in my journey, as we sort of said at the very start, I'm not a techie person.
Mm,
I'm not a coder. I've had to rely on other people to do that, and that has been one of the biggest holes in it. It's been a benefit and a problem at the same time.
mm,
Um, but we so what I would say for people that want to do something that are in my situation, or even if they've got the expertise and they're looking to work with an agency, is do your due diligence and do
mm,
it as rigorously as you can do. So make sure you understand the company you're going to, what their beliefs are, how they're going to work with you. Understand it all properly. And the reason I say to give, we were working with one agency, and this was a good few years back. So it was one of the things that caused a problem for us. And it was part of that COVID time. We were working with this agency, and sorry, I'm pausing here, but so we were working with them, and we had them on a retainer basis. So they had their developers working X days a week on our project. And what they did was that we had a disagreement because they weren't delivering what I was asking them to, even though I was specifying it all out, and it wasn't coming out. And so as that disagreement went on, and we started to come to the end of the relationship, they then decided to delete my live website. And they also, I know I wasn't quite as composed when I when it happened, and which obviously impacted all my users. They
mm,
also withheld all my backups, and so I ended up having a good couple of weeks of a lot of pain. Whilst A, we recovered the website, B, we had to onboard the replacement agency a lot faster than was planned, and they had to rebuild my site. So that
mm.
had a massive impact on us as a business, emotionally and financially. So the best bit of advice I would give is do your due diligence. And once you're working with them, make sure you have control of all of your backups and you have backup plans in place. So if anything was to go wrong, and we have this now, if anything was to go wrong, systems will kick in. We've got other developers in place ready to go if something was to happen. And it's belt and bracer every step of the way.
That's a really good learning you have shared, Simon, because I think a lot of people just ignore the fact that they need to own whatever they're paying for, either it is code or an app, or even your server backups. You need to have control over it being a founder, because it's very, very important. It's your intellectual property anyway, so you have to
Completely.
have that. Yeah. Great.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we should wrap up now. We are going into the lightning round. I've got six quick fire questions for you. So stand by.
Right.
Great. Okay. Number one. What's one of the best piece of business advice you have received?
Uh, Never give stuff away for free. You can
Good.
give it away, but you should always get something back. So, to give an example, when you send an email out to somebody, you're
Hmm.
with stuff in it. Don't put all with knowledge in it. Don't put the knowledge in the email. Put it on a web page, because what you're getting back is you're getting clicks, you're getting intelligence and knowledge. But if you give it, make sure if you're giving something away, you know what you're getting back from it.
Great, great, great tip. And what book would you recommend to our audience and why?
The one I said earlier, brilliant. They Ask
Hmm.
You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. Check it out. Even if you don't want to read, there's an audio book of it. It's brilliant.
Cool. I'm gonna add that into my reading lists. Great. What one attribute or a characteristic in your mind of a successful founder?
Perseverance.
Mm,
Because, as I mentioned earlier, it's a roller coaster. If you give up at the first hurdle, second hurdle, third hurdle, you're never going to get there. You've got to believe in what you do and just keep going at it and keep pushing, and you will get there. And if you have that belief that you'll get there and never give up, it's what makes people successful.
indeed, indeed. What's your favorite personal productivity tool or habit?
My I'm dithering because there's two, and one is my phone. So I'm Apple, and I use Siri all the time for reminders, for finding stuff out. Just quick and easy. And I use the dictation in that all the time for
Mm,
writing emails, so it saves me a whole bunch of time, especially with it on the computer. You can just quickly dictate your notes down. Really, really brilliant. The other one is, which is next to me as well, is Remarkable. So if you've come
mhm.
across it before, it's a digital notepad, but it means that I never ever lose notes. I can just scribble stuff down. I can deal with it, and it's just there. It's I never leave home without it. If you're listening,
I've
Remarkable.
heard, yeah, yeah. I've heard about Remarkable a lot, and I'm using my iPad at the moment
Yeah.
because I don't have that much money to buy a Remarkable, but it's the
Just
best.
one of the
That's
things I
clever.
won't labour. A lot of people do talk about, well, I've got my iPad to do it. The thing I love about this is it only does this. I don't get
Mm,
distracted with anything else, and it feels like writing on paper. So yeah, it's brilliant.
exactly. Great. Okay, let's move on to the next one. What's a new or a crazy business idea you would love to pursue if you had the time?
Oh, I couldn't share that because I have got one, and I don't think it's not being serviced at the moment. But the one thing I will share is, which I'm just thinking about. Well, that I won't say thinking because that means I'm not doing. The one thing I am
Mhm.
starting is I'm starting to write a book, and
Mm.
that's going to be all on prospecting for small businesses and teaching them how to get the most out of it with just some simple behavioral changes.
Mm. I would love to have one copy of that, please.
When it's done, you'll get a copy sent over.
Awesome. That's perfect. Okay, last question. What's an interesting or fun fact about you that most people don't know?
Well, I think most people, when they get, I am an inner geek, and I'm very proud of that. But the one thing I discovered a good few years ago, which I love, which some of you may be able to see here, I love Star Wars. So we've got,
Yeah, I can see that the ship. Yeah.
yeah. But I discovered, I discovered Lego, rediscovered it, and it is so much fun.
Mhm.
It's so much fun. You can just switch your mind off doing it, and it's just really nice when you've had a stressful day. Come in and just start have a play with a model, and set myself the objective that I was going to collect all of the original Star Wars ships,
Mm.
and I've got all but one now.
Perfect.
So I
Awesome.
will get there with the others.
Awesome. Awesome. Perfect. Well, Simon, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story, unpacking the last years of building this business and some of the ups and downs along the way. If people want to check out Popcorn CRM, what they have to Google, what's the website, and if folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do it?
Okay, so best thing to do is if you want to get in touch with me, go to my LinkedIn profile, search for Simon Washbrook and Popcorn.
Mhm.
If you want to find out about our product, because it's great, go to popcorncrm.co.uk, and on there is kind of on that homepage is a 90-second video just showing you what we do and how we do it so brilliantly. So it's all on there for you.
Yeah, I recommend everyone to go and check out because I did it and I liked it so much. So it's
Thank
amazing.
you.
Well, thank you so much, Simon, for joining us today and sharing your inspiring journey and the impactful work you're doing through Popcorn CRM. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on Founders Podcast.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. It's been great fun. Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in to the episode of Founders Podcast. I hope you found our conversation with Simon insightful and inspiring. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to subscribe to our podcast and stay updated on our future interviews with proven founders and industry experts. We have a lineup of incredible guests and valuable insights coming your way. Stay inspired, stay motivated, and keep building.